Hey everybody, this is 4 Years Back, a channel that curb stomps FOMO culture and focuses on media that came out 4 years ago or later. I am your host, Sammy, and today I'm joined by reoccurring guests now, Max.
Hey, hi.
And Kevin.
How's it going?
However, all of us have switched bodies, so I am actually Kevin. Max is Sammy.
I'm actually Sammy.
And
I'm Max.
Whoa! The maths.
Well, maybe we shouldn't confuse people because it's like this is like the first
the second time we've ever been.
This is like the third episode, second with you or whatever. But yeah, so today we watched an anime movie. Your Name came out in like 2016.
Exactly 2016.
On the dot.
On the dot.
On the dot. And it not to be confused with Call Me by Your Name, which I've never seen that movie before.
I have seen that movie.
Yeah, I've seen that
good?
movie. It's complicated to answer that question because
if you look at the art itself, it's a great movie.
Armie Hammer is the star, is one of the two stars.
I heard someone is a cannibal in that, right?
That's who it is.
That's him.
That's who it is.
Now, that is not textual to the film itself. That is metatextual to the actor playing someone in the film.
But also, his character in the film he's like a 40-year-old guy who comes to town, and then he ends up sleeping with this 17-year-old kid. It's a lot. This is not that.
Maybe I'll pass.
Yeah. You're good.
Watch Challengers
because
instead.
Timothy Chalamet fucks a peach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to talk about underage boobs. So
That's
true.
true.
I mean, it's a step above. Maybe
This is much better than that movie.
For the record, I'm gay, so anything they say about that is not on my conscience.
Oh, wait, are we explaining our sexualities today?
That's next week. Next week we're doing that.
For the record, I'm Pan, so I have some input on that too.
Pan from Dragon Ball GT.
Yeah, Pan, like cast iron.
You don't know who I'm talking about.
No,
It's
No,
fine.
you mean like the Greek god.
The Greek god. Which
Pan.
one was he again?
You know, the guy who invented the flute. The pan flute.
Is that where that comes from?
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm going to research all this when this comes out, so someone's going to be wrong.
What are we talking about today again?
We are talking about Your Name, and this is a movie that I watched multiple times. Max has watched multiple times,
Yeah.
But you, Kevin, this is the first time you ever watched this, and this is kind of like a reverse where, like in our Newsies discussion, I was kind of the fish out of water, but in this case, you are. And before anything else, like I obviously you kind of know me and Max's opinions about this, but I'm just curious, like, just out the get-go, what was your first time experience in this? Like, what are your opinions?
I mean, I don't know if you want me to start it off the bat by knowing what I was familiar with before, but I guess off, just opinions of it. I thought it was a very, very beautiful film. I thought that it was absolutely... I think that the one thing I would say about it that I think I said immediately following watching it was... beyond the incredible door transitions, just that shit was amazing.
We will get to those.
I love how it took every trope that you could pitch it with, but it inverted them in a very unexpected way. And I like how it, like, my favorite media tends to come from Japan because I feel like it doesn't ever follow a very strict framework of storytelling that we're so used to in the West, and that it's just so copy-paste. There's a lot of just, I don't want to say broken rules, but a lot more like plasticity or lack of even caring to follow them when it comes to like foreign films in general, but when it comes to anime films from Japan in particular, like they're paced much different and they have a very like cozy feeling a lot of the time, especially when they're like of this kind of ilk, if that word is a word that I use now.
Sure. I think you used that correctly.
Yeah, so, I don't want to say it's of, like, Ghibli quality in terms of, like, vibes, but in terms of just pure storytelling, it feels like it's definitely from the neighboring cloth to that, if you want to say.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, the director of this and Miyazaki get compared to a lot, and I think it's, like, they go for different things.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Also, the animation director on this also was the animation director on Spirited Away.
Really?
That makes a lot of sense.
You know what? I do know that there was like ex-Ghibli people who like worked on
totally.
this.
Well,
So
I think
makes
that
sense.
the strength that this movie has, though, is that like a Ghibli movie is a lot more about the feelings it evokes, rather than this movie is more about like, well, for one thing, this movie is much faster paced than a Ghibli film.
Yeah.
I think that Princess Mononoke
it's a lot
is
less like whimsical and trippy.
Yeah. I mean, it has its own share of trippiness, but it's not of that same kind.
Yeah.
For example, Princess Mononoke, I think it's one of the most incredible, most beautiful films that has ever been made, period. The first time I watched it, though, I was bored out of my mind. It's one of those things where it's not until you've watched it that first time and you look back at it and you're like, whoa, that's kind of how that movie affected me. And I appreciate it now more, and I would watch it again in a heartbeat now. I had to watch it that first time, though, to even get there. This movie, I don't feel that way. I actually would like to watch it ASAP again.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, one, I'll understand it more, and two, I just think it was a really, really nice, different story. It was not like, even if you tell the premise to someone, it is not what they expect.
No, and like
100%.
I know the meme is like subverting your expectations with like The Last Jedi and stuff. But
I thought that the meme was...
But I think that it is like, it does it in a way that is actually earned,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, the meme that I'm used to is people saying that the live-action remake is going to have Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis in it. But,
God.
I wanted to get
They're
that out of the
already
way.
doing another one.
I know. I just want to get that out of the way now, while I could. But yeah, I think that it just was a very sweet movie, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said like you knew like a little bit of like going into this. Like, were you spoiled on anything?
No. So, shout out to my friends Alex and Tom from high school, but they were both very big anime fans. I think that you'd really enjoy a conversation with them, actually, Sammy.
Sure.
You guys are like literally like very similar people. I think that they were the ones who first told me about it back when it came out. I think my friend Alex saw it in theaters and was raving about it. These are like the friends I watched Evangelion with. If you catch my drift. So like that was where I first like got introduced to it as a thing, and they were just talking about how amazing it was, and I was like, I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. And of course, here we are 8 years after its release.
8 years, not too late.
Yeah.
That's true, but I'm happy that I finally did, because it's definitely up my alley. And
It's so good.
We can get more into this a little later if it's somewhere on there, but watching it gave me this sense of like extreme desire to be creative again.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the highest compliment I feel I can give anything nowadays.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
It's just gorgeous. I mean, my first note was stunning.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you've watched. Is this your fourth time or fifth time?
I think fourth.
Fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
This is my fourth.
And I
time.
still like the twists. There's multiple twists, I feel like.
There is. We'll definitely go down the timeline.
And it gets me every time.
Also, spoilers for this movie. This is a movie that like you can't avoid this. If you're talking about the movie, you have to get into spoilers.
Yeah.
Just go watch it. Like, that's about it.
Well, first, have this video run like the 2 hours or whatever it takes, like on mute, watch the movie, and then rewatch it again.
Right.
Get that ad revenue.
Play this in the background of your entire day, maybe.
Yeah.
On mute, whatever you want.
And like subscribe and
Yeah.
other shit. But yeah, so, did you have any opinions about this? Like any new revelations?
I think I didn't think about it in terms of like their like gender identity and like kind of playing with the fluidity of gender and stuff. I don't know why it hit me harder this time. It was just a lot more interesting this time.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I mean, we'll definitely go through, like, specific examples, but, like, it is really funny how, like, it takes into account, like, obviously, like stereotypical gender norms, but it, like, applies that in, like, really, like, interesting ways that will, it, like, makes subtle differences into, like, who is in control of whose body.
Yeah.
May I go on really quick?
For our audio listeners, he's raising his hand.
Yes, I am.
Which
Kevin's his hand.
audio listeners, that's all of you because this isn't a video, but yeah.
So quick comparison. There was I think it was the same year, actually. Hilariously, there was a Disney Channel original movie. I promise I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
There was a Disney Channel original movie
I'll allow it.
that came out called The Swap. It was after my time, and it kind of reminded me. This movie reminded me of that because this is one of those few DCOMs that was like really worth talking about, and it was way after our time, and it was a body switching comedy with like, but like it kind of ended up being a trans allegory, and I was because it was about a boy and a girl who switched bodies, and so I was thinking like, man, like I don't feel like these body switching movies really go far enough for stuff like that, and they can do a really good job at like portraying those kinds of things. This movie, obviously. No detriment to that movie for what it is and as simple as it is in theory. But this movie kind of took those things further, even though it wasn't the point.
Right.
And I think that like a really cool thing about body switching movies in general is they're usually the baseline is, you know, you don't know how I have it / be grateful for what you have / the grass is always greener, that kind of message. I don't think this movie was necessarily just about that at all.
Right. It was a small
Like, at
part,
all.
but it
Like-
touched on it in a really nice way.
Yeah.
And well, for anybody who doesn't know, this movie is basically about two high schoolers. One that lives in like Tokyo, and the other lives in like more like an urban, like outdoorsy, like
I think
part
it's
of
called
Japan.
like
Itomori.
It's Itomori. It's that's a fictional place.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in real life.
It's some farm town on the cusp of a crater.
It's based on different places, but it's basically like one time they like randomly like switch places as like a comet is seen, and interestingly enough, like what kind of like following up on what you were saying, Kevin, like it's a movie that literally usually there's just the one swap, like Freaky Friday. You usually have the one swap, and like this is like no, they're like swapping multiple times. They do not remember what they did. Like when
it's like a dream.
Yeah, they think they're dreaming. They don't even realize it's real, and they come back to their bodies every day, and they're just like, "What happened?"
Yeah, and everyone around them just thinks that they're like out of it, and I think that this movie like did an amazing job at capturing that feeling of just forgetting about a dream.
Right.
Like that is what it nails, and
It nailed it in such a heartbreaking way.
Yeah.
Like
even when you keep repeating something to yourself, for some reason, it's like
right.
It's gone.
That fleeting dream feeling. Yeah, totally.
No, and it's like, and we'll get into like specifics, and don't worry, we will talk about the movie like, you know, like start to finish basically.
Before we move on, really quick, I did just want to say on the like gender thing, I was seeing that the director based a lot of the gender swapping stuff on like a popular 12th century Japanese story that's like very popular in Japan. It's like one of those like old like Shakespeare is to us.
Do you know what the name is on it?
Yeah, but I'm gonna butcher it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description. I just don't know what.
Torikai Baya Monogatari, and it means translated as the changelings, or if I could exchange them. And it's just like a 11th or 12th century like gender bending story that like would probably blow a lot of Europeans and Americans' brains.
After this, definitely send me the name for it because I could not.
Torikai Baya Monogatari, you know.
Hey, dude, that's a story right there. No, I'm kidding. I
read the manga, you didn't.
The book is better than the movie. But yeah, so I mean, like, I haven't seen this movie in like 3 or 4 years. Like, this is my first time also watching this. And I initially like remember this movie. Like, I like saw a trailer for it like when it was like coming out, and like. First, like, obviously, it's like, holy shit, this looks, like, amazing. Like, the art style and all that shit.
The animation is gorgeous.
The animation, how it's like cartoon realistic.
Yeah.
You know?
We watched, my brother was like, it's the closest we've gotten to Spider-Verse, that style of animation.
I wouldn't say that, but it's definitely, like, going for, like, a realistic, like, cityscape.
I think the best way that I would put it is it feels like it's pushing animation forward.
100%.
Which is exactly what Spider-Verse is doing. But
100%.
it's pushing it not in a different... Well, it's pushing it in a different way, but it's still pushing it. Like,
I mean, it's not as stylized as Spider-Verse.
No, but I do think that, like, I took a minute, and like, there was, like, just looking at just the props.
Yeah.
If you want to call them that.
Like the phone screen.
The fans that were just blowing.
The lighting, I think, had a huge part of making it feel so real. And
the chairs.
It was just gorgeous.
I wish I did a little bit more research on how they were able to capture things to look as realistic as they did. I mean,
I know a lot of it was hand animated.
The characters were hand animated.
The character, the facial expressions.
Did they use 3D modeling to create the place?
So they used 3D modeling,
like the sense of place.
So like the cradle, there's a shot of like that's like really like slowed down. That's like a 3D model. All vehicles are 3D. There was a moment where like a can dropped in a vending machine. That was a 3D can, but very sparingly where it doesn't detract from
it. It either had like a shader where they did a lot of post where they just completely hid that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Totally.
But I mean, I saw it. So I didn't end up seeing it in the theater, even though it probably was playing like where we were, and it was on sale on PlayStation back when you could like buy movies off the PlayStation store.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
All that shit's gone now.
And I just had like a couple bucks in there, and I'm just like, whatever. I'll just buy this. I mean, weirdly enough, that might have been my first movie I ever bought, just because it's just like, you grow up and it's like, you go to Blockbuster, you record stuff off DVR on demand, Netflix. So it's like, it's weird for me to say that, but it's true. And then I just picked a random afternoon in college, just like maybe like before I had a class, like 2 hours like later, and I just like was like, okay, I'm just gonna watch this, and then I just instantly fell in love, and I'm just like, holy shit! Like I don't say this often, and I don't mean this to be like hyperbolic, and I'm sure my opinion will change as I get older and like my tastes are different or whatever, but to this day, I think this is like my favorite movie, like without a doubt.
It's one of my favorite movies for sure.
Oh shit! Okay, that I did not know. That's awesome.
It's one of those perfect movies. Like I probably wouldn't change a thing about it.
There's something early on I would get rid of, but like we'll definitely get to it.
With the high schooler dating.
Was it the anime opening?
Well, I mean, you just mentioned it, but yeah, it was the beginning. Animated intro or whatever, because
where it's basically like a trailer for the whole movie.
It felt so disconnected from the entire thing, and it felt like an
mind
entirely different director made it.
If you don't mind,
I think so.
So that's a very common thing. I mean, I don't know for sure what if there's a word for it, but I at least see it a lot in video games from Japan where they give like a metaphorical like. Almost like teasing you, like anime openings in general just are that. If you watch, I don't watch a lot of JoJo, but I know that like if you actually like fine tooth comb through
JoJo Siwa,
Bizarre Adventure,
close.
If you like fine tooth comb with like all of the like openings of those, you can literally spoil the whole story, but you don't have context. So
exactly, without the context, I don't think it spoils or anything.
It's a common thing in Japan. They don't care as much about spoiler culture as we do.
Which is like weird.
It's weird to me.
But I also like when you see those moments happen in the movie, I like thinking about like, oh, that's what they were showing me. I like that.
I get it. I think it's just like more of like the anime. I mean, I don't know if it was a different director, but it feels like somebody else was in charge of it only because it's like
it was mandated?
Like the lighting or like something was really off compared to the rest of the thing. And I don't think it was necessary at all. Like
it's not necessary.
Because you have like other montages in the movie itself. And like and like I mean like this director has done other movies and he has not done that in other ones.
And what is this director's name, Sammy?
His name is Makoto Shinkai, and he used to, like, early days, he used to be a video game animator at Falcom, which does, like, the Trials and Ys
Trails and Ys.
Trails, sorry. I never played them, so...
I haven't either, but my friend's playing them right now.
But, yeah, he made, like, a short film, She and Her Cat, while he was working there, and then, like, he just later quit to make, like, bigger movies, and mainly, like, works with Comics Wave. Hope I pronounced that right, but he's, like... His big break was, like, The Garden of Words, which, like, all of his movies up to that point, like, were, like, in terms of, like, the art style, like, it feels like he was, like, it was kind of, like, rough edges or whatever, but The Garden of Words is, like, where it felt like his actual animation and art style like really what's the word am I saying?
Coalesced.
Yeah, like basically like came together, and then right after that, Your Name came out, and then that was like a huge commercial success. And then Weathering
so
with You, and
it almost didn't come out. They almost scrapped the project
for Your Name.
For Your Name, yeah. They almost,
Really?
I don't exactly know what happened, but they like had all but abandoned it, and then the director came back and was like, "No, we have to finish it."
That's crazy because and you guys didn't have to like do research for this.
No, I did.
I very much enjoyed doing the
that's
research.
fine. It was not a requirement, but
I've seen it enough times where I was like, I want to know more about it.
I didn't do the homework. I'm sorry.
But it's weird because he wrote the proposal for Your Name in 2014, and basically you took 2 years to make. And
that's crazy. It's such a gorgeous movie.
That's a lot of time. Seems like it's not. Sorry,
so fast.
Well, I mean, I don't know how things are run at that particular studio. I hope that they are run fairly in the industry.
I don't want to say anything for libel reasons, but I assume that people were happy, hopefully.
Everyone loves paying animators a living wage.
Yes, this is a common thing in the industry.
But what I will say is the output itself was magnificent.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, like, I'm not going to comment on Suzumi because it's like, that movie's like too new. It came out like 2 years ago. But I will say, like, out of the ones that I've seen, like, this is definitely his best work.
Well, I do have another fun fact, which is that this is the first non-Ghibli movie from the first non-Ghibli like anime movie that surpassed $10 billion.
Oh yeah,
it was big. I remember like a few people were talking about it, and like it was. I mean, it was in circles I expected it to be, but still, like it made waves. And I
had never heard of it. Apparently, it boosted the tourism in Japan.
Yeah, so it's weird because
it made me like think like, when am I going? I need to start saving
for real.
So I don't have thought that
tickets to Japan are so expensive.
Yeah,
it's like
I got a life
$3
to live.
I
can get it working.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like I heard about that tourism thing with Your Name, but I think it also happened with like other Ghibli movies too. It's just like a weird thing where they like prop up animated movies to be like hey, come visit us.
So what was the studio that made this one called?
This is Comics Wave.
Is it Comics or Comics?
It's weird because the M is capitalized, so I'm assuming it's Comics. Could just be Comics Wave. I'll put in the exact pronunciation.
I'll allow it.
But this is weird.
Excuse me.
I only had one source on this because I don't think this is correct at all. But do you guys want to guess what the budget of this movie was?
I would guess maybe like 80 million.
I'm gonna guess 18 million.
Oh shit.
Okay, so this is crazy, and I like use this converting it into like USD because not just converting it to USD, but like what the exchange rate would have been in 2016 because like the exchange rate is like pretty shit nowadays. But apparently it was 750 million Japanese yen, which is basically the equivalent in 2016, $7.4 million.
Whoa!
Which makes no sense.
That's crazy.
It makes no sense.
The fact that I was closer.
How much is like a Ghibli film?
Oh,
definitely more than that.
I would say maybe 200 million at most.
I am blown away.
That's probably pushing it.
I don't know. I'll put the numbers up, but no, it's like way low. Like I mean, you can fit 2 Newsies into this.
Oh yeah.
Well, they say limitation breeds creativity. So they made them. They used every part of the buffalo. It seems.
Guess.
And like what you said, Max, and it's just like and profit. Box office was like $400 million USD.
Yeah, it was over 10 billion yen.
It was the 4th highest grossing movie in Japan. I think it dropped down now to 5th because of the latest One Piece movie. But
of course,
but it was like, if you just include Japanese films, it's like 3rd.
Wow.
I think the only ones
it deserves it.
Yeah, I think it was like, I gotta look it up. But I think like Titanic and Frozen are like above it in Japan, but. No, dude, it's crazy. And I mean, again, like I after watching it, like my initial time, it just revitalized my love for movies.
Yeah.
Which at that point of my life, when I first watched it, I lost because I I thought a lot of things were very, like, the medium of movies I felt were very stale at the time. Or, like, I would, like, go see a movie with, like, friends or family. It's like, oh, it's something that, like, as, like, a collective would like. Know? Or, like, it's like, oh, like, I was, like, afraid to, like, criticize movies because it's like, I don't want to tell people that, oh, we spent $20 on shit. Or, like, or...
Fast and Furious 7 wasn't worth $20 a ticket?
That's the only one I've seen. I can confirm it wasn't. Iggy Azalea had a cameo.
I haven't seen it.
And just, like, I felt like the runtime of movies were just, like, you couldn't make an interesting story, like, that I haven't seen before in that runtime. And
this was, like, what, hour 45?
It was, like... It was pushing 2 hours.
But it was under 2 hours.
It was right under. It was like very tight. I
including credits, it was probably like 150.
I do also want to say, like, going off of that whole point you're making, like, this movie, like, reminded me that, like, this is basically what you just said. I'm just kind of repackaging
No, you're good.
This movie reminded me that, like, movies aren't doing enough. Like Hollywood,
right.
Like, I mean, I could go on a tangent about that I don't feel like going on today. You've heard it before in different ways. But I just feel like this movie is kind of like what I said about Ghibli. It just kind of makes you feel things. And, like, that's okay. You don't
inspiring.
You don't need to have, like, the imagery carried it so much that I try to imagine if this wasn't an anime movie, and I still think it could work. That doesn't mean that it needs to be, though, or that it should. I think that sometimes, like... I think that it lends itself so well with the fact that it's animated that, like, the movements of the characters, I felt like I cared so much more. I don't know if it would work as a live action thing at all.
I mean, I think it would be fine, but it just...
It would be missing something.
The beauty, I mean...
Yeah, the...
Anime, especially anime like this, can just be so gorgeous.
It's evocative. I have a note in here that just says, like... this movie has so much goddamn care and artistry.
Yeah.
And then I also have a note that says, God, I want to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely sells you on the country.
It's a movie for movie lovers. And
it's a film.
Yeah, I think everyone should see this movie.
It will be remembered, I think. Like when I think about animation in the last, like, 20 years... I don't think about a lot of innovation. I don't think about... Not a lot sticks out, because not a lot comes out anymore.
I think that's why we were comparing it to Spider-Verse, where this is, the animation style is so
Spider-Verse brought a lot to the table.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, oh, wait, we can do it this way.
Right, exactly. It doesn't just have to be a cartoon.
And then this movie just reminds you that, like, hey, like... You don't need to just put something in front of a camera and call it a day. Like you can take your time with it. You can make people feel things. It doesn't need to.
It only took 2 years to
I
make.
meant the movie's runtime.
That's crazy.
I meant the movie's runtime.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, go along with that too if you want for that same deal. But I just feel like it just is, in every sense of the word, in its purest definition, a film. And I just don't feel like I see that anymore, even though all this crap keeps coming out. You know?
Yeah, and I mean.
It's like how Everything Everywhere made me feel.
I mean, like, this director, Shinkai, he, like, all of his movies are animated teen romance movies with, like, some sort of magical element, usually. And, I mean, I think that's probably, like, a detriment to him, only because I feel like in a similar vein as, like, Wes Anderson, like, you kind of know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen one Wes Anderson movie, you like, almost have seen them all. I
know
feel
what
like.
you mean, yeah.
Not to shit on, like, his other movies.
No, Grand Budapest is also a perfect movie, and maybe one of my top 3 movies of all time.
Yeah, that's a good movie. And it's, like, different from, like, Fantastic Fox.
Right. That's true, yeah.
But
he's got different styles in his style.
But like, again, like, doing the Miyazaki comparisons, it's...
I don't think they're fair.
They're not fair, and Miyazaki definitely, like, does things differently. There's similar, like, patterns and similar, like similarities between his movies, but I do think that is a thing of Shinkai that I do think that he could move into a different direction if he wanted to. But, like,
it's absolutely inspired by that. You know, there's influence there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's inevitable, honestly.
Yeah, multiple people who worked on this movie worked for Miyazaki.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, I mean, like, we for everybody out there, like, we watched this the dub version of this, and
good point.
It's one of those things where, like, I usually go for the dubs at times, like, except if it's, like, live action or whatever, like I always go sub because it's just like it's so
so weird. Yeah.
If I rewatch this, I'll watch sub.
But I do want to say, like, and this is the first time I ever watched the dub for this movie, and I will say I still like the Japanese more.
You showed it to me for the first time in the sub version, and I think I enjoyed that more too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
why did we watch dub?
Because we were with a bigger crowd, and
fair.
you know, it's easier. It's easier to hear the words than read them.
That's fair.
And you get to like pay attention. I don't know. You get to pay attention to everything on the screen. For your first time watching it, it's a little easier to watch the dubbed version.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, now that I've seen it and I know the framework, like, I understand the debate because it's like artistic integrity versus understanding it, and like I get it, and I think that, I mean, I don't really know how to judge a good dub from a bad because I don't watch enough anime to really judge that. Period.
Well, there were no like major celebrities like the Miyazaki film.
No, like Noah Cyrus and the bonus Jonas were not in this, but
Christian Bale.
But I think that, like, you know, now that I have like the expectation for what the movie is, I want to watch this up next.
Yeah, I think some of the English dialogue is a little clunky.
Oh, I love I have a note here. It was, please make me a handsome Tokyo boy my next line.
It sounds better.
And then my next note is, girl, you got your wish.
And I also think that, like, just like the emotional moments, I feel like they take it like up a notch in the Japanese, just because it feels like you hear them and it's like their voices are like about to break, basically. And in the dub, like I they did not do a bad job. It is a case where I do think the Japanese was better in this regard. And that's not me gatekeeping at all. Like, watch it however you want. Like, it doesn't matter. You'll still get the same amount of, like, the story does not change. Like, if you like it in dub, like, you'll most likely like it in sub and vice versa. So
I love both versions.
This ain't no 4Kids One Piece.
It is not. Although I will say the intro is good. I love the rap, and unironically. And also, I mean, like, before we even get started, I want to shout out this one blog, and I'll have it in the link in the description, of just, like, info about the production of this movie. And I've seen it, like, I've seen this, like, blog before, this blog post before, like, years ago. But, like, I went into it again for this just because it had so much information that, like, some of it I already knew, but others I just, like, oh, shit, oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. But anyways,
are we gonna get into plot soon?
One more thing about the dub. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, I just had some really funny notes. I'm excited to read.
No, you're good. So you mentioned that nobody, there isn't anybody who to recognize in this dub, but Taki is played by
a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, but he also is Dean Venture in the Venture Brothers.
Really?
Yeah, he's Dean Venture, and now it's like going to be impossible for me to rewatch the movie in English. And then Mitsuha is the original Sailor Moon dub.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and she's Julie in Korra.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind.
Which is really bizarre.
I didn't recognize any of their names, but I guess I didn't go deep enough. That's crazy.
Yeah, and
Julie, do the thing!
And for Kevin's sake, Mitsuha's dad is also Darker Eye in Pokemon, which is just a Pokemon, and that's like that seems to be his most notable role.
That's hilarious because I've actually seen that movie more than 3 times.
And I like how Kevin just like went over my shoulder to look at, because
I didn't even read that until you said it, so I didn't recognize anyone. I was wondering if there was any like voice acting regulars I'm used to hearing and a lot of stuff in it, but no.
I didn't do that much research into everybody, and they have like other rules too, like the Ninja Turtle for Taki's voice actor. But like, I just like that was something that I just wanted to get out there. But
yeah, cool.
Damn, Julie really stepped it up.
Julie,
do the thing.
Do the thing.
I have things to say about Korra, but like for another day.
Another day.
Not today, Mr. Weasley.
They looks amazing though.
I love Korra. Anyway.
But yeah, we start off with this beautiful cloud entry scene that goes directly into these like great like wide shots where like the camera follows like specifically like Mitsuha and Taki, but like Mitsuha is like really like goes like behind her head and just like like imposes the fucking comment. Like
Sammy is currently making hand motions.
Hand motions are going to be something that we sadly can't show you.
For the listeners, who is everyone.
And also, I don't know how to animate hands, so I'm not even going to recreate it.
The tragic hands.
Yeah, and then we go straight into that intro, which, again, I think kind of cheapens it, but... I mean, again, like,
but it really comes back.
His own.
I feel like the intro almost makes the, like, second half of the movie better, because it starts off and you're just like, alright, this is cute, it's fun, and then... By the second half, you're like, whoa, I did not see it getting this, like, real.
And it's crazy because, yeah, that intro literally shows you, like, all the spoilers.
I think it plants a lot of stuff into your head that I don't know if this counts as cheating at payoff. I don't really care. Not my movie. I didn't make it. But I have notes here because, like, they had opening lines where Mitsuha says that she, like, has a sense of loss. And then Taki says that he feels like he's always searching for something. And that doesn't really make sense until you're past the ending of... when you're at the ending. Because that's not who their characters are for the entirety of the film up until the climax, I'd say. So it hints at that stuff, and I have another note, and you're just saying, like, is this all chronological? And that's why I think a second watch is kind of needed, because it does... A lot of stuff that was hinted at the beginning, I don't remember where it was anymore, and I need to just be like, okay, that kind of...
Right.
And also, for anybody who hasn't seen this movie, and people who have, like, it's going to be impossible for... We're going to be jumping all over the place.
We're going to expect that you've probably seen it.
It is a time travel movie.
The nature of the movie... Spoilers. The nature of the movie... like, kind of calls for that, and there's all those little details and shit.
The genre itself is almost kind of a spoiler in itself, because I feel like that's a reveal. Like,
I just say it's like a teen romance. Like, I don't know.
No. The fact that there's low-key time travel.
Yeah.
Loki.
High-key.
High-key.
High-key. Low-key.
Loki.
Goku.
Like Loki.
But... The music is just mentioned in the music, and I mean, I don't have that much information on it, but it's done by a Japanese band called Radwimps, which they basically worked alongside the director for the production of this movie.
Yeah, they're like a real band, but they also scored the movie.
Oh my god, that music whisked me away.
It was like, so good.
It reminded me a little bit of... It went a little harder than this, but it reminded me a lot of Breath of the Wild, but it also, like, went harder, mostly towards the beginning, where it, like, made you feel like you were there. Like,
and there was
the
one
movie
recurring, like, piano sting that was like...
That's Mitsuha's theme.
Yeah. It's like... Dun, 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 dun,
I love
dun,
that
dun,
riff.
dun.
It really...
It's so good.
That's like the thing I love.
It's such a great sense of place,
yeah.
And the music just accompanying it just felt like Mitsuha's hometown of Itomori felt like a real, fully realized, lived in history, like
totally
place. Like
and the setting was so interesting. I mean, it was like on the cusp, whatever you want to call it, of a crater, an ancient crater.
That's lit as hell.
Yeah,
like
so interesting,
and like
visually interesting.
They created a culture around that, and that's awesome.
You really felt like the townspeople really felt like they came from there.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh yeah, I'm from.
Well, it's weird because I mean, like we'll get into it later because like that's where it gets brought up, but it's like the history of all of that was like lost, and like the grandma.
Yeah, I have a note on that.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically like,
Mayagoro's Great Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I mean, I don't want to like jump ahead again. This movie is to talk about because it's like like talk about one point. It's like it leads to another one.
Yeah,
like, we're talking about it.
I think we can jump around. I think.
Yeah,
it's expected.
I don't have a ton of notes on that, but like it did make me think. Like, damn, like sometimes I think some traditions are people just do them out of respect of. Even just the lost memory of it, because it's like, what else is left? And I find that admirable, and like, because if they don't even know what... I have another note, like, the dance is beautifully animated. Mm-hmm. Saki is gross. I'm sorry, but this scene felt weird.
Oh my god.
I think the movie knew it.
I
think the movie knew it. I don't know what they were...
Well, yeah, it knew it when he took a sip of it later.
She was like, what the hell, you pervert? Like, but notes on more just, like, the ritual in itself and everything, like the fact that her family has this task of carrying on this shrine and its traditions. Like, I find that very beautiful because no one is around to tell this story anymore. Mm-hmm. This is all they have left.
And they played into that interestingness by having like her dad be like exiled from that little part of it.
Well, it's like more of a self-exile because it was like after the mother, after his wife died, like he's just like, I hate this temple is dumb. Like I'm just like
right, and so that was also very interesting to see like that dichotomy of like the modern world with that. Yeah, ancient tradition.
And I mean, like going like back to like like all the information's like lost about their traditions or whatever, but they know that like these are our traditions, and even though the meaning behind it might have been lost, it's like important to like. And this is like a big theme of the movie is like the blind faith of like like whether like you don't know how these mechanics work, but like that it is important, and that goes into both. The traditions that they have where it's like they have to do that traditional dance and go to the shrine and like go to the tree and shit, but like it's also the characters themselves where it's like they have this blind faith is like, no, I don't know why, but I gotta go like to find like this missing piece in my life. So it's very interesting.
And I'm sure that like there's a deeper meaning for what that all even could entail for the rest of the story that we just don't even know about, whether it's hidden behind some cultural context or just because this is a fictional town. I'm sure the only person who does know is the director, and this is one of those things that may be best unanswered, Yeah,
I mean, it's weird because the oldest comment that we can think of that, like touchdown is the big crater with the tree in it, but later on in the movie...
it's implied I think there's like a cycle going on.
Yeah, there's a cycle going on, but also...
Some sort of prophecy cycle.
Teshigawa.
Sorry, just call him Teshi.
They just call him Teshi.
Yeah. Teshi, yeah. So that's a flaw of the movie. Is like I feel like the side characters are kind of like there to serve the purpose of the main characters.
Yeah, they're very much side characters.
Okudera is best girl. I have a note here saying Slay Queen.
But yeah. So like, there's that initial crater that like touched down, but then they also talk that the lake itself is also a crater.
Yeah.
Damn, they need to get better defense.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure it was one crater that broke apart. That's what I was picturing.
I think it's just like a different, a second. This is like right.
So the one we're seeing is the third.
Yeah, this is the third.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's Evangelion, the third impact.
But it's like it's one of those things where like I don't. It felt like a detail that like didn't need to be there, but like
it's kind of funny now that I'm thinking about it. Like y'all didn't know better. Well, that's nitpicking.
That
absolutely.
might be why they said that they lost all of the history. And
stuff. I think that was an implication too, because I think that they said that crater site was maybe 1,000 years old as well, or or it was lost 1,000 years ago. So
and they don't have the history of what happened, so they don't have. History is repeating itself.
So I think that like the lesson to be taken from that, not lesson, but I think that there is something subtextual there that this isn't the first time this has happened. And I think they even mentioned that like people in Mitsuha's family had experienced this before.
Yeah, grandma,
mom and grandma.
So clearly obviously Mitsuha's mom didn't get killed by a meteor, right.
But I think it's more of like, and again, like I could be
it's the threads or something,
but like I think it's like more of like it is like
this movie's amazing.
But like the forces, like the unknown forces, are like literally telling this family, like warning them that like this thing's happening, like generation, just like they don't like understand.
And that's like kind of why they're the keepers of this tradition.
I kind of want to like avoid any like explained videos now because that definitely is what's going on here. I absolutely think that the traditions that their family is upholding has something because the threads, the shrines, threads of fate,
tangled and
like it absolutely. And this movie did a thing that I really love that I'm way too early bringing it up, but I adore when in these movies they have some paradoxical exploit that makes sense given what you've been presented with, and it just did it in a way that was like, oh, this was set up so well.
Yeah.
Even if it was just offhand stuff like Twilight and Dusklight, the Golden Hour,
Magic Hour, yeah,
that was so cool.
So it's interesting because like
I'm hopping around in my notes.
No, but like the teacher in that, who it was like. It's like a nod. She was like a love interest in the previous movie, Garden of Words. That's like
I did see there were cameos from other movies.
Yeah, there's a universe here. Yeah, I hope they don't abuse that.
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah,
but like she like in the beginning, she was like teaching the class like about like Twilight, and that's like the merge, like where like both worlds like kind of like merge or what have you.
It's called the Golden Hour, also the Magic Hour.
Yeah, that's weird. They didn't
that
say
will come
Twilight
back later.
They just said, I don't know if that's a dub thing or if that was in the sub too.
I don't know if it was a dub thing, but they're like, I know you guys know this word Twilight, and I'm like, please tell me that was not in the sub. That had to be only in the dub.
I don't remember. She definitely said Twilight in the sub.
No. What I'm saying is she highlighted it, and she was like, I know that you kids know this word, and I'm like, cringe. That had to be a dub.
I didn't even catch that.
I did, and I'm just like, what are you entailing here?
Yeah.
Whatever. They didn't stay on it for too long. I'm staying on it too long myself.
No, you're good. And I mean, let's just get this one out of the way because I just want to get this one out of the way. So like the boob touches.
I knew where you were going.
So Freaky Friday.
That's my second note.
So Freaky Friday. So Freaky Friday is a movie where like Lindsay Lohan and what's her name from
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis switch bodies, and they're like touching their boobs and their asses or whatever, and like it's like that, and like.
But that's like girl being like, oh, I'm older. Oh, this is what it looks like to be older.
But it's your mom
or
and your daughter. But like
I don't know. This feels so much weirder.
It feels weird, and I mean I understand the initial one where it is like, oh, I am a teenager, I have boobies,
when he first wakes up as a girl and he grabs his boobs.
I mean,
but
let's be real here. We would all do the same thing that first time.
No.
Of course.
I'm okay with the initial one. Yeah. I'm okay with
maybe
the
even
initial
a
That's
second
human
one.
nature, I'd argue, in that situation.
Yeah,
if it were to actually happen.
No. And I mean, even though it's weird, I don't. In the context of the movie, I do not care about that. However, he just keeps doing it. Throughout the movie.
To the point where the little sister is like weirded out about it.
Yeah.
And the most fucked up part is it has payoff.
Yeah.
It has payoff.
Yeah.
Where like he like after like long like forgetting like who this person is and like going on this long journey.
What a genius.
Finally like is in her body once more and then is just like in the weirdest like most like emotionally like wrecked like moment. It's just him crying while touching her boobs while her sister watches.
And the sister comes in and is like, oh, she's
I've never been so happy to see boobs.
Oh my god.
And I'm again like I don't know what to think of it because it has payoff. I'm weirdly willing to forgive some of it, but I will say like the basketball scene where like her boobs are like flying around.
I'm my god, it's like
that's
slow-mos with the camera on her boobs.
I also just want to say, I don't know if I'm the only one who caught this, and maybe I am most likely overthinking it, but I don't think I am. One, I have a note here, but I promise at least know what I'm saying, and not because actually no, I'm going to separate the points because right after, like, Taki realized that he was in Mitsuha's body, did you notice that the transition showed cutting open a tomato and then eggs?
Oh, no, I
did not notice.
That's amazing.
I was like...
Oh, my God.
It could have been a peach, though. It could have been
We've already covered that.
Call Me By Your Name?
We already covered that. No, but it's just like the imagery. I know that a tomato cut in half is not the first thing you'd think of with that kind of thing.
I think there was,
but I think that they were kind of subconsciously feeding into.
There were a few of those.
You know,
there was a moment where Mitsuha was riding a bike, and there was like an upskirt of her panties under her skirt, and I was just like, these kids are in high school. Everything you animate, you have to make a choice.
Yeah, it's too intentional, like Jar Jar Binks. So like, I will say that particular thing that I just mentioned with the food. Very, very clever.
Yeah.
Also, what the fuck?
They know their audience. I guess I would say that.
It made me laugh.
It is not unconventional for anime to do so.
Anime.
I've seen way worse.
Anime has a lot of growing up to do in that regard. So, like, I mean, I don't want to say that forgives it entirely, but I also just. I don't think it made the movie worse.
It's also a body switch in the movie.
Right. Well, so, like, I think that like it just gets kind of messy when you just take into account the fact they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, the first love interest is some sort of manager at a restaurant, and he is not out of high school yet.
This is a very common thing.
I don't know if she's a manager or just the supervisor.
Yeah, she's at least 18.
Do you think she's also in high school?
No. So this is not me excusing this. It's just a trend I've noticed in a lot of Japanese media. In Persona 5, you play as maybe a 16-year-old, maybe a 17-year-old. You can date your teacher.
Oh, wait.
We're not talking about Persona. That's like
no, but my point with that is like that series is a very much Japanese anime. It is anime. Like it's a game, but it's anime, and it takes from a lot from anime culture, and that is a prevalent thing that comes up in a lot of anime. Is like people who have crushes on their teachers and deadass go on dates.
Okay, I don't think Okudera is as old as you think.
No, no.
I don't think it's the worst. I think, like, the upskirt of her riding a bike was way worse.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, that's just a pattern I've noticed. I don't know if it's like a antiquated cultural thing from some of the creators or something. Well, that's probably what it is. But I'm not surprised it's here, is I guess what I'm saying.
No, and it's not as... the age gap, I don't think, is as big as we think it is. I think I think she has a higher position.
She just, like,
assume...
She seemed like so much more of an adult, and
she's
then
not
all
like
of a
a
sudden she was the
cougar.
love interest.
Yeah.
She's not like a cougar, but she's also probably not, like, done with college.
I think it's like a 20 to 17-year-old relationship.
Which is not that weird.
It's not that weird.
It's just weird because he's still in high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I take it she's not in high school anymore. But I will say...
She is the best character in the whole thing, I will say.
She is good. And I think that you could have made her worse and made the movie worse off with it, but it seems like she... throughout the movie is very understanding, like, like, when they were, like, going on the date, it's like, okay, wait, like, you clearly have attachments to someone else who is, like, not me.
And
like,
she just ended up being a good friend, which was nice to see.
Yeah, and that I actually like how they respected each other even after that. Because, like, I feel like in that position, like, so long, like, I hope you have a nice life.
She came back, she wanted to see him. It was cute.
Well, yeah, because, like, she thinks, and it was, like, Mitsuha and Taki's body, but, like, she, like, sewed Sonic the Hedgehog onto her, like, skirt, you know? After that guy slashed her skirt with a box cutter that he just has a box cutter.
Oh, my God.
I love you have a feminine side. Like, it was adorable, I will say.
It was great, yeah.
Putting that shit aside, I do like their friendship, and, like, you know, it was very budding and very sweet and very, like, you know, and Taki wouldn't have had that without Mitsuha even doing that.
Yeah,
you know?
Mitsuha also gained some stuff out of that relationship too. I mean, that's one of the big parts where they played with gender and sexuality, is because she got to experience that being with a woman.
Yeah, that's a point that I think the movie didn't go enough into. Not that it needed to go all out. I kind of wish it went further though, but it's like I kind of wanted Mitsuha to, like, really be like...
It didn't go very far, but she definitely was very excited to go on that date.
It was
she was like crying that she wasn't... She, like, planned out the date herself, and she was, like, crying. It's like, why am I... She didn't even know why she was crying.
Right.
And that was, like, the first time that you hear that, like, piano riff.
Oh, was that about her waking up as herself again and she couldn't go?
Yeah, she woke up as herself.
I missed that.
I think we, like, paused the movie and then we went straight into it right after.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch it. Like,
definitely ill-placed bathroom break.
So there is a bunch of details in this movie that you're going to miss the first time around, and that's just, like, nature. And I think watching it over and over, like, you do appreciate the little things. A lot of them being, like, the little, like, hints as to, like, who is in whose body at which time.
That's another thing.
I don't know if you picked up on this, Kevin. Maybe you did, but, like, you can tell just, like, based on, like, the way that, like, Mitsuha does her hair was, like, all, like, braided and stuff, and, like, when Taki's in it, it's just like, doesn't use the red string of faith. It uses, like, a black, like, rubber band or whatever, and, like, has, like, a
like,
ponytail.
their postures are different.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle to be solved. I love it.
I one of my notes also is that the fact that they told the story so effortlessly in that way.
Yeah, like I have a note here saying like, is this chronological? And it probably mostly is.
It
like,
mostly is.
I think that what I adore about this movie too is like it begs to be sifted through. And I'm not gonna watch a stupid fucking explained video to do that. I want to appreciate the art in front of me because like one, the visuals are amazing. I feel like I've only scratched the surface on the first watch, partially because I was taking notes during it. But like I was able to take in a lot of the stuff and just bask in the beauty. And, like, what a treat to be able to go back and enjoy all that again and notice more.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't even think this is a type of movie where it's like you don't get it the first time around. Like,
I think I got it pretty well, but I think that I will just appreciate the detail more, like how well thought out it just was beyond the surface level.
Yeah, and even like small things like when Mitsuha's and Taki, like she's like kind of like playing around with like his hair or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, like
the way they touch this, like the sideburns.
Or like their runs are different. Their run cycles are different as well. Even though it's like very like
it's exaggerated,
tongue in cheek into that same like gender like stereotypes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the door transitions?
Yes. So
can we please?
Multiple times throughout the movie, they have this like shots like on the ground
like
of like doors like opening and
like
people
the
walking
Japanese
through
sliding
them.
doors. Yeah.
Japanese sliding doors, or like
so good.
The trains,
gorgeous.
Like all that, and
the train.
Like,
doors.
did this movie like? Was that a thing anywhere else? I feel like this is the only movie I've ever seen that's done that.
Well,
I'm sure it's like been done, but this movie commits to it.
In terms of its detail, you mean?
Just like how often it comes up, and like how it just. It's a common thing, and I feel like the average eye won't even notice it, but my art brain was like, ooh, we're doing more of these.
Yeah.
I like the perspective on this. I like the creativity with it. We're getting some subways. We're getting some traditional Japanese homes.
Yeah.
Like, it was so different, and like, it was a great... It gave the movie like a sense of identity that stitched a lot of the scenes together, because it did it so much where it was so quick, but it looked so good, and... It also, there was juxtaposition between them, because like I said, there's the trains, there's the traditional ones, you have like electronic ones that are moving, you have like analog doors moving. It was such a cool little detail, because I've never really seen that.
Well, I think the reason why they did it also is because it is like going along with like just like crossing over to like a different thing or whatever,
a threshold,
like a threshold, or like the dividing line or whatever, and just like representing like that, like with like
duality,
the string and like
kind of
just that ongoing like imagery throughout the movie. It just like kind of lends itself to that. Even like bridges are used a lot in this as well. Well, a lot of times like it's meant to, ironically enough, just like used to as like missed opportunities or like not being like connected.
Train stop bridge,
like a train stop, or like, you know, they're like trying to call each other and it just like doesn't
That's
work.
the bridge I'm talking about. Yeah, when they stand on that bridge, there are multiple.
Oh, that's
scenes.
brilliant!
It's so smart.
Or like at two moments at the end where it's like Okudera like walks away from talking, like you see like her wedding ring or whatever, and like walks away, or like at the end where like Taki and Mitsuha like cross each other for the first time, and like there's a little like chime
the
and
bell
they don't
ringing.
do anything.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, the more that we're talking about it, the more I'm just realizing that it does everything so beautifully with just all its own iconography and identity, and just so I'm surprised that like it even it feels like a movie that has. There's movies that come out with their own sense of trope, I guess, or their own little, I don't want to say gimmick, because they're so much more than that. These make the movie what it is, I feel like. Those little pieces.
The little moments like that.
And those are they're not derivative of anything. It's doing its own thing. And obviously, like, the theme of a bridge is not new to this movie, but the context of it and, like, those pieces playing with it, the way that it's handled, like... This feels like a film that's always existed or was always going to, if that makes sense. Because
the idea feels like it's fully...
It's so universal.
Very, very...
It's such a universal feeling.
Yeah.
And its appeal, I guess, is the best way I can put it.
I also just thought of, just now when I said the bell ringing when they pass each other, it's like... It rings a bell, you know, the expression rings a bell, like them seeing each other rings a bell.
This movie is ultimately about...
Well, like, that chime shows up multiple times in the movie, too.
It's like when they pass each other.
When they pass each other, when the comet, like, is right about to touch down.
Exactly.
When he gets a sense towards the end that like Taki's body is still in the shrine.
It's like that reminiscent feeling of like it rings a bell.
This movie like kind of straddles this really interesting line. I've gotten very like, I was just kind of talking about this yesterday with you about a different thing, but this movie it brings up this kind of idea. I hope I'm not premature talking about this because there's so much more to talk about.
At this point, like
we'll get through it, but there's this subconsciousness. Honestly, is probably a very big theme of the movie. Period, because there's fleeting memory, and it made me realize like, do we forget that much? Because I feel like they're doing so much in these days, and it's gone. They forget it.
It's
they
like a literal dream.
They're literally saying their names out loud, and they just can't remember it. And honestly, the human brain does fucking do that. Like, I've had that happen before where, like, I've tried to, like say something to myself multiple times and I still forgot it. Or I didn't write it down.
They really nail that feeling of trying to remember your dreams.
Just wisping away. And I think that this movie ultimately is also just about connection and union, which they make it pretty clear early on. But I think that the fact that they basically have this whole relationship that they can't place... makes it just a really interesting story.
Yeah.
Because they did change each other's lives for the better.
Before they even realized it was real life.
Yeah, and it's like... And I think that there's just something... The liminal space that this movie lets you kind of run in.
Yeah.
Like, that's the word I would use to describe it. It's a movie that, like, appeals to that liminal space... or that subconsciousness that we have where we kind of know things without knowing them, or we can't place why something feels a certain way, which in my opinion, and all the media I've ever consumed, is my favorite thing to explore, period, because it's deeply human, deeply profound, and deeply unknown. And I just find that a really cool thing about it.
Yeah, no, and again, like, it goes into that same thing of just like blind faith or whatever, and just like you do not know, you can't retain information, but you just like have this urge that like
it plays into that too with like the traditions being lost.
Right.
Yeah.
This movie's amazing.
I also didn't remember all of the like humor coming through in the dubbed version. I thought that it was pretty funny at times.
Yeah. So there was one thing, and let me see if I can find it here, but there was one thing about the English translation that I think was a little, like, untranslatable, or maybe you could have gone in a different direction with it, but when Mitsuha's initially, like, in Taki's body, and she's, like, talking to his friends or whatever on the courtyard or whatever, she, in the English version, she's like saying like girl, and it's like a gal, a guy or whatever, and like it felt really weird because I don't know, it didn't feel correct because in the Japanese,
that felt like it was missing something.
It felt off. It still made me laugh.
Yeah, in the Japanese version, because like Japanese is different than English. How it worked was Taki was speaking in feminine pronouns, and they were very confused.
Lost in translation.
Gotcha.
And then she started talking masculine pronouns. So that was something that like I take it they like there was no.
It just would not 1-to-1 translate.
There wasn't something that they could do about it. They tried their best.
That's cool.
I mean, that's one of those challenges though when you're dubbing. Just flat out.
And I feel like the vibe came through. It just the dialogue was messy.
Yeah,
I don't think it worked. Thinking about the actual dialogue now in context for what it became, then it didn't make sense. It was funny, but I didn't think much of it after that. So probably for the best.
There was a moment where they were at the they're like, oh, we'll go into this cafe or whatever, and there's like a vending machine, and that's like I think that's one of the only product placements we have in the entire movie. Is
I wouldn't have known.
There's a product. It's a real coffee.
Yeah, Boss Coffee.
Boss Coffee.
It's pretty good.
You've had it?
Yeah, I had like one of their what is it, Frappuccinos or whatever.
Where'd you get it?
Asian
Market?
store that's near me.
Like Gangnam Market?
Yeah.
Great. Shout out Gangnam Market.
You didn't have to say the name.
You could pay us.
Oh yeah, a sponsorship. That would be great. I appreciate it.
This leads into a note that I have, and then I have an actual note I want to make about the flaws of the movie.
Yeah.
Anime food makes me very hungry.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's no Ghibli, but yes.
It was pretty good though.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if you want to make me instantly hungry, show me anime ramen.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Here's an actual complaint I had about the movie though. Maybe not a complaint. And this is absolutely digging into minutia. How the hell did they know their passcodes?
For their phones.
Like, was it Face ID?
Did they
around then?
type in passcodes?
Or were they? Or was it like? Because I had a thumbprint one that could do my thumb.
Well, it used to be thumbprints, but
So-
I don't know if I saw them typing in.
I don't think I did.
passwords.
Like, it was slide to unlock. They were definitely iPhones. I don't know if it matters.
You
but...
can have an iPhone without having a password.
No, yeah, but I mean, like, why would you? But like, I don't know.
It's something
It's a
you don't.
nitpick.
It's something you don't have to think about.
It's not something you should think about, but I'm gonna bring it up because I thought it.
I think like I can set my iPhone right now to not have a password.
Yeah,
so that's
you
probably
can.
what they did.
But like,
Maybe it's in Japan. They don't use passwords.
or maybe their muscle memory of the person's body they were in kicked in, and they just did it. I don't know. Whatever.
That's a good. I've never heard that complaint. I've heard complaints about this movie. I've never heard that before. But that's a good.
But like, I thought it, so I had to mention it.
No,
I can forgive it easily, but it's funny.
I want to say thumb recognition might have been there for iPhones.
I think
not
my
face,
iPhone back
but
then did.
Yeah,
I don't
100%.
remember it. But it's also it's not just 2016, it's 2013 as
And
well because
2016, yeah.
Mitsuha.
But Mitsuha didn't have a phone, did she?
No, she did.
She did have a phone.
She did?
They both did.
Both of them had cell phones.
Yeah, they communicated by putting diaries into each other's phones.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Also, that's a really interesting detail. Is
I like that.
It happens really quickly in the movie and during the montage and multiple scenes, but the dates don't line up on their calendars. It would be the 12th, and it would be a Monday, and then it would be a 12th on the other person's phone. It's a Thursday,
And they just didn't catch it. Well,
they didn't catch it at
they
all.
probably didn't notice it because they have this feeling of it being like a dream. Try and think of the details from your dream.
Yeah, no, and it's just not really paying attention to any
Right.
of that at all.
Well, the thing too with that kind of reminds me of. Have you guys seen Kill Bill?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
That reminds me of I don't know, back when the movie came out, part 1 anyway. You can see the bride's real name on her ticket on the plane.
Interesting.
No one noticed. It was in the first cut. It was in the original movie. It's in part 1. I have it in I have a Blu-ray of it right over there. And then the second part when you learn her real name, but yeah, if you paid close attention, you would have learned it. This reminds me of that kind of detail where it's if you have a hawkish eye for it,
Yeah.
you can pick up on that.
It's one of those once you rewatch it type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, and in the scene later in the movie where Mitsuha goes to actual Tokyo and aimlessly tries to find Taki.
Yeah.
I noticed Kevin, you laughed at this, and I didn't even think about it, but it was the line is you were the one that was in me.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. We were laughing at that. That was so funny. I was in you and you were in me. No, but I think she said inside I was inside of you and you were inside of me.
It was something
Sammy,
really
it was so
Sammy,
funny.
I am so sorry. I am so fucking sorry. I am going to apologize as much as I can for
Why?
what I'm about to say.
Oh boy.
The reason why I laughed is, 1, it's inherently funny. But 2, as awful as this translation is, in Kingdom Hearts 1,
I knew it. I knew it.
Everything always goes back to Kingdom Hearts.
there is a line that probably similar mistranslation. There's a line where Sora says, "Kyrie's inside me," referring to her heart.
I got
It
you.
literally found its way inside him, but that's the line they kept. And it has, so it reminded me of that,
Okay.
but also on its own, it was that is a horrible choice of words for the dub.
It was hilarious.
and I couldn't help but laugh.
But when they meet each other, this is a detail that I remember I was late to pick up on my first few attempts at not attempts, but first times watching it. But on the third time I noticed, it's Taki is the same height as Mitsuha when they meet, but when they later meet, he's taller because he's older
It's been
at
like
that
6
point.
years,
Yeah.
But on the train, they're at the same fucking height.
Yeah.
And
By the way, when they first met, when he didn't know who she was that in the like anime ass opening?
yeah,
Or
no,
was that?
they're
totally.
back to back. And
So that was
they're
a
at the same
canon
height, and then-
moment
Yeah.
that I just didn't notice was canon until they looped back around later.
Yeah, because that's when in that opening they show the ribbon being passed
But
off.
did she say like my name's Mitsuha and that's like did that happen?
Are you talking about the anime like
the
like
opening, the theme song
The
part.
opening-
Was that where that was expressed, or did it happen right after that and I just forgot?
So it shows that both of them were like they're kind of like back to back, and
Yeah.
then like something happens, and like he's like taller and she has like short hair.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that again like the actual intro like shows it off, but like
That's a rewatch thing.
but that's also like the intro is disconnected from the entire movie because that's
Yeah.
not something that they did not physically. Oh, well, not back to back. That's just like
Right.
Yeah, it's
so
a
the
metaphor.
intro was like a little trailer. For
It's
the
a
whole
metaphor for what's going on.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of anime does that.
and he has like this Rolodex, and this I like looked up because I had no idea about this. It's actually English, both in the Japanese and the dub. It's like English words, and it's kind of like
Taki has it?
yeah. During like their meeting on the train or whatever, when they first meet, like he flips through two of them. One of them says, "Have you seen Tiamat's comet?" And the other Tiamat's comet. Wow,
It's a Final Fantasy thing too.
and the other one is, "I'm looking for my counterpart." And it's like English in the Japanese dub as well. And it's
Weird.
just, I think it's just supposed to be just like a silly little like Easter egg for people.
Huh.
I do think a lot of, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I do think that it's pretty standard in Japan to know some English. I think it's
Yeah,
A lot of
people-
countries.
But like the having those, like I think was just like a nod. It's like, if you know, you know. And that's how he initially gets the
ribbon.
The ribbon is
Yeah.
like on that scene,
I
and that's why
love
she cuts her hair.
That
Yeah.
iconography, though, like, chef's kiss.
It's so good, and he's wearing the ribbon the whole time, and you're thinking like, how did he get her ribbon? They haven't met yet.
Did she, when they met during the ending, did she physically give it back, or did they?
He gave it back to her.
So like they literally, you know, it reminds me of.
They were there at the same time.
No, but like, so is that thing getting older then? Like,
Yeah,
with
it
a
looked-
causal loop?
It looked old as hell.
No, like it looked old as like it. It was
The ribbon looked old and disheveled.
so it was a closed loop where it was just constantly.
It's not
going
a
back
loop;
in
it's a
time.
straight line.
Yeah, it's not a loop.
Because she initially, like when she like braids her hair, that's like her initially like having the ribbon, and then she goes over to Taki, gives him the ribbon, cuts her hair, dies. Taki still has the ribbon on his like wrist.
But didn't he give it back?
Well,
Yeah,
they
but-
meet up at the end of the cradle. Gives it back to her,
And then did she go back and look for him, or is that just she has it now and goes on?
She has
she
it
has
now.
it now. It goes
Okay,
on.
I didn't
She
know
forgot.
because she lives now.
Because
Yeah.
there's like a paradox of like if I thought that she gave it back to him again, so it just will continually get older, which
No.
is a thing.
No.
So cool, it's not cool. That
Don't
clears something
worry.
up.
Paradox avoided.
It's good.
Paradox.
That would have sucked.
We're all good.
That would have sucked.
Let me ask you guys this, because I over the years I go through like reviews and like I just like just as like fun to see like and like I also want to like see what people like say about stuff that I like or like I hate or whatever. Try to get a different perspective and like some of the critiques of this movie I think are a little too harsh. Like I know. One of them was like, "Oh, well, this is like melodramatic," and I'm just like, "Well, it's."
Have you watched anime?
It's kind of the point, and when the stakes like rise, and like with that experience that they're doing, it's like it's supposed to be that.
I'm sorry,
It's a
I
fucking
cry
movie.
every time. When they meet in person for the first time, not for the first time, I guess, but when they meet on the crater's edge
Yeah,
at Magic Hour, my eyes are full of water.
I had an
Tears.
ear-to-ear smile during that scene. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest. Maybe if I wasn't taking notes, I would have bawled.
dude.
Well, at the end,
What do the shots of them like? Well, it's like it cuts to like Mitsuha's perspective, and then it goes like straight
yeah,
to like
it's like-
Taki's perspective. It's
I
like so it's back and forth.
it's so good with the like glare from the sun in between them.
The best cut in the entire movie is when they're like writing their own names, and then it just like cuts to the pen.
Oh my god, it's
to the fucking
tragic.
ground.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Oh my god, you feel your heart sink.
For real, it's like you feel there's like a snap that happens
like,
inside of you.
It's like they were having such a beautiful moment, and the worst part is, Taki gets like a line,
Yeah.
and she gets not even his name.
Oh my god, that also, I cried when she opened her hand and it says, I love you, and not his name. I cried so hard.
I'm like, bruh. Like,
but here's the funny thing, and I don't know if this detail ruins anything or whatever, but like, the way that she writes, that she was like initially like writing, she wasn't going to write her name. She was literally going to write "I love you" as well.
She was also
was the way the kanji was supposed to.
fuck.
Apparently, that's how.
Yeah, that's lost on us Westerners.
Yeah,
but that is
definitely.
tragic. Oh my god, that makes it so much more poignant.
Oh my god.
But like I get in. Oh god. So like even like before like she like opens up her hand and reveals that.
Yeah.
I love the shot of her just like running towards the town. Looks like to her side, down at the reflection of like the comet's like tail. Looks up, and then it's like her and like the comet breaking apart. It's like holy shit! Like this is like a gigantic It's such a huge problem. It's such like a galactic problem.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you going to solve this?
It's called cosmic horror, my friend.
It was. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the comet for just a minute? Just
Yes.
Every visual with the comet. That thing literally is half the movie's like iconography. I feel like I think that thing
the colors, the lighting,
the image of just it like
going around
slowly
the planet.
becoming a spiral. By the way, a lot of things in this movie remind me of Uzumaki. I just wanted to mention that. Not because of, I mean, that is cosmic horror, legit, but I just think that, do you know about Uzumaki?
Nope.
It's a Junji Ito manga. It's extremely famous. It's getting adapted into an anime. It is one of the most famous horror manga of all time. It is fucked up. It is scary. It makes your skin crawl when you read it. It's genuinely something that, I mean, if the anime can even do it justice, there is some images in there that you could not get out of your head. That's not what this was evoking to me, though. What it did evoke to me, though, was that story had a very, very tragic happening occur in a very circular-looking town. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that maybe that was a slight inspiration. Because, I mean, if you live in Japan, you know who Junji Ito is. And I think that just that level of cosmic horror that affected that, I feel like it felt like it was at least somewhat inspired by that, even though it's in a completely different genre. Because what happens to the town in that story is, I mean, it's a lot more fucked. It is, like, Avengers level threat.
Yeah.
But
you don't have to spoil that.
But
absolutely.
But I definitely saw the DNA of that in here, and I appreciated that as someone who is now exploring more stuff from, you know, Japanese culture and modern Japanese manga and anime storytelling.
That's very cool.
And I think that if you were to read it, you'd get where I'm coming from with that. In the sense of just, oh, fuck.
Oh, definitely. In terms of like the scale, like this movie does a lot of good stuff with like scale.
Mm-hmm.
And like not only is it like like the comet and like stuff like that, but it's like
The colors.
the colors are great, like the blue, the pinks, the purple.
It looks so cool. I did see that they worked with scientists and meteorologists and all that.
Oh, that's even cooler.
It looked so good, so real.
This movie is like known as like if you hate this movie, like the one thing that you'll get out of this is like almost every establishing shot is like a screensaver.
Yeah, that's something I was gonna say.
Totally.
Like everything, I want like a moving like wallpaper engine screensaver. I'm gonna fucking do that after this. I want to just have like every shot of the comet just on my screen. Like I said this off the record yesterday, and I'll say it now or when we watched the movie. I had a classmate in some of my illustration game art classes back in college, and she was a classically trained painter that used an iPad. So she applied her skills with classical painting when she did digital art, and the results were incredible.
I'm sure.
And she did, I think that one of the projects she had was, we had to like make movie posters or something or one of the classes that I ended up taking that she took, she was just showing me some of the art that she did for it. One of those things was making a movie poster. So she did essentially it's asking us to make fan art.
Right.
She made a poster for Your Name. It looked official, first of all. She was an amazing artist. But I remember the stark thing about it that stuck with me of that piece. For one thing, she was way too good for the school that I was at. But the gradient of the sky in the piece, the instant that now that I've seen this movie, I get what she was going for with that.
She basically copied it.
She did it justice, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
And
that's
like
really cool.
The fact that that's what sticks out in my mind is like one, that just goes to show her own talent. But the movie stuck with me before I even saw it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So like I just find that amazing. It's just the gradients and the blues and
some of those shots of the sky, the lighting on the birds, like the shadows when the birds are flying by. It's just gorgeous.
This is another impressive scene that I wasn't too sure how they did this. So during the ceremonial dance. Mm-hmm. So
the animation was so good.
So initially, I thought it was rotoscope.
I thought the same thing. It looked rotoscope.
Apparently it's heavily referenced. It's not rotoscope.
Oh, so they basically hand keyframed it.
So I don't know. I couldn't find any information, or at least translatable, where I could find it in English, but it was. It might have been maybe they took certain frames and then did the in between, the in betweens. I'm not entirely sure, but it's not rotoscoped at all. Or I don't even, maybe it's just them looking at the footage and be
right,
it's just drawing on the side. I have no idea, but very impressive dance sequence.
Yeah, and there's an elegance to that you will only the way that came off had an elegance to it that only animation can do. Mm-hmm. You just can't if you just have people dancing.
The lightness of it.
Yeah, they were fleet-footed. Is that the word? It just felt very. It kind of reminded me of Lilo and Stitch in the beginning, just in a cute way, not actually, but
Stitch.
The scene I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It felt very just beautiful. I was like, wow, this one part must have taken quite a bit of time to finish.
And there's, this movie is all about small details and small nods.
Mm-hmm.
The old man who ends up is in the ramen shop and sees the picture and recognizes it as
drives them
to me and drives Taki to the cradle or whatever. He is in the background of when the mayor is talking during his speech.
I was wondering. I was going to ask you.
He's just there, and I didn't even see him this time around, but I saw pictures of it online. I'm he's there.
Because I figured when she said he's from Itomori, and we realized it was 3 years ago, I figured he was a displaced resident.
Yeah, he's just there.
Yeah. This is making me I really long for the days when you didn't just have all the answers online. I would love to just page through this movie and just be people can't see me right now, but I'm just pointing my finger in random circles, oh wow, I feel like it would just be a consistent reward with this movie because it's so thought out.
Yeah, and he's kind of supposed to be the only, I guess the bad guy is nature and time, but he's supposed to be the bad guy, but he is justified in what he's doing. He's just this is ridiculous. It's absurd. He's thinking logically, and he's an asshole, of course. But
you're talking about her dad?
Yeah, Mitsuo's dad, but he's not the villain.
Right.
I have a note in here that says Taki's not putting up with anyone's shit, and I think that was I either wrote that when he as Mitsuo was confronting him.
Yeah, he grabs
his tie. Oh my god, that was
I
so
also
good.
Wrote smash that patriarchy.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's
and
super, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say that's when that's kind of when we realized that her mom also had those quote unquote dreams, because he was the dad was "You're not Mitsuha, are you?"
It's funny that I think the only two characters that can point that out, without I have a feeling like our friends do, something's off with whatever. The only two people that I feel could point that out like who are you is the dad and the grandma.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And the dad's not even part of the fucking like.
Well, but he probably
lineage.
knew the mom when she was going through that stuff.
Maybe, yeah.
That must be what it was.
I mean, I like that they don't really elaborate on it. I don't
he
think
was in love with her mom, who had those things.
This is such a great example of just less is more. Mm-hmm. Like, holy hell!
Right. That's what I meant by like that note that I wrote, where it was just like they tell the story so effortlessly. It just like flows so easy, and they let you figure it out, and it's not that hard to figure out.
Yeah, and I think you maybe mentioned this. Like earlier in the conversation, Kevin, and like even when we were walking away after we watched the movie, that you said that you were confused by like where stuff matched up in the timeline because like it is told non-linearly where it sometimes where it's like like even in the beginning where like
it's relative linearity to Mitsuha or
right. It's linear in their own times.
Yeah, but like to us the viewer, it's like like the first like boob grabbing scene, like it goes straight to that, and like she's already back into her own body having breakfast and stuff.
That's what I wrote.
And her sister is like, "Wait, why do you have like your school clothes on?"
Exactly.
So it's like it just like little like hints,
and they just like let you figure that out. For yourself.
Enjoyed that. It made me think like this is going to benefit from another watch,
right? And
but I want to give it another watch.
Yeah, and it goes straight into that same thing about the braids, where it's like twist, tangle, connect, reconnect, just hodgepodge of just like scrambling of like different like moments of time.
Can I read some notes that I just have that I just think are funny?
Dude, go ahead.
I wrote one that says, "Y'all exchange phone numbers," which now that I've seen the movie doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Even it is acknowledged.
They explain that. Yeah.
I wrote that far before it was.
There is a moment if you've never seen it where you're like, why don't you just call each other?
Or like share your
exactly,
share your damn locations. I also have a note here. It's like the autumn look is amazing with the trees. That was some Johto shit. It was great. Like, I was like...
You mean in the... when they're walking up. Yeah.
That whole scene was just so... It had so much serenity to it. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just so, like, the glade they were in, if that's the right word. Like, it just... That's, like... Those are the things that make me want to visit Japan. Mm-hmm. Like, seeing just, like, that, like, countryside vibe is also really cool and everything. But when you see, like, the autumn trees and the cherry blossoms and, like, I don't want to say the pagodas. What are those gates? Like the red ones? Like just that vibe is just
I don't know what they're called.
Inherently just like peaceful. Mm-hmm. I want to be there. It just felt like the way that like the color of the leaves looked was spot on a painting.
Right.
Like,
and this is why tourism went up like crazy after the movie.
I have a friend, one of my friends who raved about this movie that I mentioned earlier, literally went to Japan and like I think after this movie came out. Yeah. And, like, I've seen the photos. I've seen the gardens he went to and, like, all that stuff. And it's, like, it's just, it feels like just such a, I don't want to put it on a pedestal or anything, but there's just this in-tuneness vibe that they're in this film that I see in a lot of Japanese media. And if it's just a way to get tourism to go up, damn, y'all are great at marketing.
No, but there is a whimsy to Japan in art forms like this.
Yeah, the music is elevating it so much.
And it helps that you're using real, actual locations.
Yeah.
Right. Like the shrine is a real location.
Even if it's not like
the crater.
Not in the crater, but it's based off of a real shrine.
It has basis. Yeah. It has actual like tradition tied to it.
Like the fucking like staircase at the end, like where they finally like meet, that is an actual location.
Wow.
And it's funny because the railings are red, like the fucking red string.
Oh my god.
So it's like, holy shit. Yeah, of course.
This movie is just really a joy.
Sick. Your name.
But I don't know. So I mean, maybe you guys have an opinion on this, but like another critique that I've seen, and I understand why somebody would go to this conclusion that they didn't feel like the romance was actually like they weren't like in love, like it was like more of like they were experiencing something together, and like that is like what like drew them together. But like, I feel like watching the movie, it's not, and like people are like, oh well, just switching bodies with someone like doesn't necessarily think that like you're like in love with someone. But it's like it's not just that. Well, it's they have like an intimate, long distance relationship. They are talking to
each other in more intimately than anyone else in the world.
Yeah, I would argue that there's almost like a okay, what is sex? It is two people being vulnerable with each other.
They were inside of each other.
Yes, they were. The movie has said that.
Yeah,
it's canon. It's two people being extremely intimate with each other and having this moment of, as the movie puts it, unity. Mm-hmm. And even though they weren't physically with each other, they were physically with each other's bodies.
What is dating? It's like to get to know each other. They basically skipped all that by being each other.
So you can make an argument.
It's like, I met your family first before I ever even know you.
I think that there's an argument to be made that it's more of like a metaphorical dating kind of thing, or like, and honestly, if you really want to think about it, like in an extreme way, this is like apex dating. Like, you are literally living the other person's life to get to know who they are.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And you never see them. You don't know what their personality is beyond what people say about them. So in reality, this is
just like messages that they leave.
Yeah, this is probably like dating on either. I mean, it could go either way. This is hard mode dating or easy mode dating, depending on how you want to look at it. Because you literally just have everything in front of you. I also have a note that I wanted to say earlier where I'm like, just imagine for a minute that you wake up in someone else's body and the horror of just, you're literally just plopped into a random episode of someone's life that you don't know about, or what they do, or what their responsibilities are, who their family is, if their family sucks or not. Like, that was the whole angle of it where I'm like, that's kind of horrifying. There's a level, but also that moment of like, that aha moment when Mitsuo walks out of Taki's apartment and just sees everything, and also she was like, grass is greener.
Tokyo. She always wanted to go to Tokyo. Now she's in Tokyo.
You got your wish. Yeah, and like it's that grass is greener thing that every body switching movie has.
And that's the thing. It's her wish. Taki just like happens to just be the guy who gets sucked into it.
Yeah, but it's
a gratitude. Didn't have much of a life going on. It seemed like.
Yeah, it's the messages of these movies are usually about gratitude. They're usually about like everyone has their own hardship. Don't ever compare, blah, blah, blah. Right. But the movie goes so far beyond that, that, like, it's there. I think it's kind of evident immediately.
Yeah. Also, his dad gets, like, one line and is out the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And
he was so rude to him.
I mean, hey, effortless. We don't need any more of it.
I feel like if there's ever an adaptation, I'm sure they'll probably expand on that, but you really don't have to.
No,
it's just like... It was, like, interesting, like, all the time. It was just, like, I feel like I know less and less about his dad the more I watch them.
But going back on, like, the whole union thing, though, like, the lines, like, our times got tangled somehow, like, or our lives, I don't remember what the line was. Just the whole idea of them getting tangled up with each other, that is, a union. It's dating. Like, it's, you can view it that way if you want, and it's plastic enough to where if you don't want to, you can, but... I mean, I do get
that is something pulling them together.
I get what people mean where they're like, where did the love come from? I completely understand that because the movie didn't go in that direction, but when you think about what was actually going on between the two of them, it also makes perfect sense. So you can kind of be in both camps and be justified.
Love means different things to different people. It's not one. There's no one definition of what love is. That's a very fluid thing, and so I just feel like they have such a deep, intimate knowledge of each other and appreciation for each other by the end of this movie that is love. That is their love.
Yeah, and the reality too is like, just from like my own experiences, even if like, regardless of how much you even like the person, when you get invested in someone, it doesn't matter if you like them. Like, you like them on a level, but it's like when that ends, when it's over, it's kind of just like it's a loss. So it's like this feeling of that investment is love in a way,
right?
Like, I would argue it just is.
That's part of love, yeah.
100%. And so even if Taki didn't love her friends, even if Taki like didn't like where she lived, he still learned to care about what she cared about, and vice versa. So like, I think that on that level, like, they were literally being each other. They were living each other's lives, and they both learned and gained things from the experience. That is a relationship. So I do get it. It does feel a bit ham-fisted of, like, to some people maybe making the argument of where the hell did the romance come from? But at the same time, what else would they have, like, done? Like, just... I suppose they could have just been friends and just laughed about it or something. But, like...
No.
That doesn't seem right.
Cut it, yeah.
No, not at all. Especially, like, their personalities are so different, too.
Just watching them see each other, like, at the end on the staircase when they turn around to each other and he's like, do I know you from somewhere? And it cuts to her and you see her turn around and she's already got tears streaming down her face.
You know what this is making me think of now that I'm talking about it like this? Stevani.
Oh, from Steven Universe.
You're not one person, you're not two people, you're an experience.
Right, exactly.
They had this experience, this really special, intimate,
they basically
unique...
became a fusion, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, that is the whole allegory for that was relationships. Relationships are an experience. So, yeah, that's my thesis statement.
You're wrong, critics.
Now go watch Steven Universe.
Well, this isn't the critics. This is just like random comments.
You're wrong, Reddit user 1231153.
Gotta make sure that's not an extra person.
I mean, if it is, it's funny.
Also, it's weird, and every time I watch this movie, I forget to pay attention to this. But like, I think the certain things you have to chalk up to like them forgetting everything while they're in the other person's body, because Taki doesn't know that there was a meteor that killed everybody 3 years ago.
Right.
And like that,
and he seems to be the only one who doesn't
he's
know.
He's the only one who doesn't know, which I chalk it up as he just like doesn't remember because of like his experiences or whatever. But like that is a plot, I guess a plot point that like is kind of a plot hole. I guess kind of. I'm still unsure about that.
I mean,
I did think about that while watching.
Yeah, that was kind of silly, but like, let's put it this way. If it did make the news back then, like, how long would people have talked about that for? Like, actually? And also, in addition to that, like, horrible things happen all around the world all the goddamn time. I know that comets aren't falling every other Tuesday, but, like, I do feel like even if that did happen, it would be tragic. It would probably be something people talk about for a while, but a big thing that this movie touches on is just how much you forget.
Yeah, just the fleeting nature
just
of
everything. There's so much shit that, like, the last 8 months of my own life, I can't fucking tell you a single day. I know things I did, but I don't know, like, I can't map out how an entire day went. I can even look back at my notes on it, but I don't remember my train of thought. I don't remember, like, the order of when I saw this person or did this or did this with whoever.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just to, like, step aside a little bit, but, like, disasters in Japanese media are very prevalent.
Yeah.
Some of that is because of tsunamis and, like, earthquakes, and, like, others just because of, like, the atomic bomb, and, like, you have, like, all these different, like, stories of that. And, like, for Shinkai himself, he states that, like, this movie and also, like, Suzumi and like they are all very much like inspired by the 2011 like earthquake that happened in Japan, and, like how like devastating that was, and like this entire thing just got like destroyed. And like he states that like this is kind of like him like being inspired by that. And to your point, Kevin, like I mean like that's like a thing that happens in real life. Like, oh yeah, like this earthquake happened and we like totally like don't remember it that often.
Right.
I mean, let me ask you guys this. COVID was 2 years ago. Well, no, COVID was 4 years ago. But how much of that do you like remember?
But you do remember that it happened.
You remember that it happened.
I'm thinking more like I hate to say like a mass shooting in a different state.
Yeah.
I can't remember every single one of those that happens.
That's unfortunately a better example. That is more in line with kind of what I think.
Yeah.
So like also Taki was younger. I can just assume that as an adolescent, his mind was in other places. Oh, that's so far away. I don't need to worry about it.
Latest.
So Yeah, like, that's where I can see some leeway for that, even if it does kind of feel like a reach. I think that just the nature of the concept of I'm not saying the movie gets a pass every time someone forgets something, but I do think that when you're that age, your head's in so many other places. Right. So, like, I don't think
Plus,
that...
he already seemed kind of like a more disheveled character than the rest of his friends.
Yeah, he kind of grew into a better person because of her.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I think before there was like nods to him being like an architect, but like this is like his experience with Itamori was one that like he really like got into like a big inspirational like bubble for that. But he and like it's funny because like he's like oh, my job interview didn't do well, and then like his friends are like, oh, I got 2 officers. Like,
I got 8. Yeah, that was
like,
so
fuck
funny.
you.
I will say I felt that so hardcore when he said that. I'm like,
I know you both are in the throes of that.
I mean, I'm finally recovering, but hot damn, it took a while.
Yeah.
Like, I felt every bit of what he said there, and I'm just like, I hate both of you.
Could you imagine if you were saying that and I was like, I've had a job for 5 years? Like, that's so rude.
What support?
Please hire me. Please hire me.
Excuse me.
Dude, there was multiple points in this movie that could have ended. This movie could have ended more.
This movie
and it would have been just as satisfying.
It could have it could have ended where like he sees like Itamori's destroyed. Could have ended where like, you know, he just like forgets everything and that's it. Could have ended where like at the end where like everybody's saved and they just never meet up.
Yeah,
there's so many, and I feel like that's like why I like the movies. If this had like a sad ending, I don't think I would like it nearly as much.
Let's put it this way, though. It tied up all of its threads.
Boo.
But I'm also not making a pun.
You are. You absolutely are. Sure.
But I am. Like, there is a pun intended, but I also am being serious.
Yeah.
Like, with the whole thread of the movie, the whole thing with threads, like, that was so intentional that it would almost feel ridiculous if they didn't do that when you look at it on a literal level. You're right, though. Like, it could have gone either way.
I want to speak about one thing, and we haven't really talked that much about the plot. Well, we haven't. Yeah. We've been talking for like 2 hours, or whatever. But like, it is more. I do want to bring up something specific. So, in order to get the townspeople to evacuate, they basically form Al.
Let's save the town with terrorism.
Oh my God.
They form Al Qaeda. Basically,
I can't believe we didn't talk about this.
No, I have a note here. Let's save the town with terrorism. What the hell were they thinking?
Blow up the power grid.
And I understand it's a last resort. I understand this is what you have to do. Again, another.
They're about to get much worse.
It didn't work.
The reoccurring flaw with this movie is like the side characters are to serve the purpose of the main characters.
Yeah.
This is the example that
how did they
people
just
bring up.
Tesha was just like, sure, I'll blow up the power station. You don't have any proof, but I'll do it.
Like, was he just like the pro hacker character who just does this and they get what they want?
He
works at the construction.
His dad,
I missed that.
And his dad did mention like, I'll teach you how to use explosives.
Yeah.
When they mentioned the explosives part, I was like, okay.
So I understand like the girl. I keep on forgetting characters' names.
I have their names,
but she
Yotsuha. No, that's her sister. Yep.
Who was
1 second, please. Tsukasa. No,
that's not. Here, I'll pull it up. Sayaka. Or Saya. So I understand her being roped into it because she feels like somebody that would be a victim of like peer pressure or whatever. And like her job is like, just make this announcement or whatever. Totally understand that. The other guy, the only explanation that he kind of gives is like, he basically says like, the comment was the lake was formed because of the comet or whatever 1,000 years ago or something like that. Something along those lines.
That's one of those things where I'm like, y'all, there is a cycle going on here. Be superstitious.
But they forgot the history.
Very
they
absurd.
Just have the traditions.
Even though there's 2 craters.
But you're like this, Kevin, and this is something that I never looked at until it was pointed out to me. in that shot of them like sitting on the couch in like that rec room or whatever at the school, there was a bunch of video game references.
Really?
There was an orange GameCube. There's a Super Famicom. There was a copy of Metal Gear Solid, like
PS1.
Yeah, like PS1.
Like the white and red.
The white and red cover. It's just like, again, just fucking details in the movie. And we've gone this long without talking about it, but arguably the most impressive animation scene in the entire movie is
when she trips and falls.
When Taki trips and falls in the shrine, and it goes straight into this color pencil-esque animation.
I thought it was like oil pastels or paintings or something.
It was like pastels.
I love when movies, like, I mean, you have to do it right when you do it, but I love that this movie kind of had two of them, but I love those, like, meta, that's probably not the best word, but those moments where, like, have you seen Interstellar?
Mm-hmm.
You know the scene I'm talking about. When he's, like, literally, like, in the Tesseract.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I love those existential...
Totally.
Those existential scenes of just, like they essentially are just, like, in this whiteness. It's not always whiteness, but Harry seeing Dumbledore at the end.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, the... or Edward meeting... Edward meeting with God in the beginning of Fullmetal Alchemist.
Or that scene at the end of Steven Universe.
Not there yet. Just those moments of, like, I don't want to say
for our story.
I don't want to say, like, a massive info dump of, like, here's what's actually happening, but just those moments of clarity of like where they're kind of, like, pushing the boundary of reality.
Oh my god! Another thing we haven't talked about is the quips. The, like, comic book style quips where they, like, pan back down to them after.
There's very sparingly. Of them. Yeah, very sparingly.
That was so cool.
Yeah. It just happens.
It just happens, and then it just works. It's like you're looking at it, and then all of a sudden they pan down, and you're like, oh, that wasn't real, that was their thought. And you're just like, oh, wow.
That was cute.
That's a very anime thing.
No, that was so anime.
It works so well.
I like how this movie dipped into its, like, I want to say anime serialized anime ancestry, I guess you could say. I need to go back to the oil pastels for a second. That looked incredible.
Yeah,
like that's what AIR like animation thinks it looks like.
Dude,
it's so good.
It goes from like a comet to the red string back into the comet.
Yeah,
it's sick. It's so sick, and it's just like underwater, and he's just like seeing her life. Like,
it's just done so well.
Yeah, and like even though you like the movie did this incredible job of giving you this slow burn of both of their lives, and then you still don't know anything about her. And now you do. Like, you know, it was incredible.
Yeah. Is there any other points we forgot, like, in the movie itself, that, like, lingering things?
Did they change history?
They did.
They literally altered what happened?
Did.
Yes.
Indeed.
So
Itamori was saved and everybody survived. Or at least they said, like, most people.
Yeah.
Which, you know what, that's... Weirdly enough, I like that more realistic.
Me too.
Thing.
I also like the dichotomy of, because earlier they said most people died, and then they said most people lived.
Yeah. I think that, like, there was, like, this really interesting, like, I have some notes about, like, the movie itself, and, like, it's about dreams, fleeting memories, being forgotten, or just forgetfulness, memories in general. What is the other note? It's a very original twist on visions. Like, I'm talking, like, you know, like prophecy or, like, predestination.
Yeah.
Body switching. It is, I mean, obviously. It's such an original twist on all of these things. Time travel.
It's one of the most unique time travel stories I've ever seen.
I was literally thinking while I was watching this right before I learned that there was a gap between the two. Of, like, how cool would it be if there was, like, a time... I'm sure it's been done. Clearly it was here, but I was thinking, like, how cool would it be if there was, like, a time travel story where, like, two people were disconnected by time, and they were, like...
Well,
but they had to
isn't there a movie about that with the mailbox or something?
I don't know.
There's a rom-com.
Not a rom-com.
Sounds familiar.
But I forget what it's called.
I don't think
I've seen it, but
I want to make my own original ideas here, so I'm not going to watch that. But, like, I love...
Just ignore things that exist.
I love... Well, you know, I don't want to be influenced by it.
Or something.
So, like, I like the idea of, like, what if two people tried to interact with each other, but they were, like, one of them had to, like, leave notes. Like, the Doc and Marty stuff on crack.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
how would they figure out how to communicate? And so...
Wow, they did that in Harry Potter Cursed Child. Shout out that play. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I read the book and I hated it.
Okay.
But I hope the play was good because it was designed to be a play.
It's too new to talk about on this channel.
No, it actually isn't. But
when did it come out?
like 2016.
But
really? Oh, okay, never mind.
They did one of those things.
Yeah, I like that when I see that, and I was thinking, like, how cool would it be if there was like a time travel? Oh, that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
Except, you know, the way they get around it is they wrote notes in each other's things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they couldn't just share their location or text each other, and so.
It was out of the service range.
And again, there is like I think there is like you have to kind of like go in a little bit, being like, yeah, like your text get like deleted right in front of you. Like you have
that
to.
was interesting.
You have to
I
believe.
didn't know how I felt about that.
You have to believe in some of the magical elements.
Yeah,
a little
but
bit
like
more.
what
That
exactly,
was a bit of a suspense of disbelief.
That thing that happened where like all of it wasn't the texting deleted. It was just the app just like.
No, it says no entries.
Yeah,
that was
the whole journal was deleted.
I didn't understand that, but I can look past it.
I think it would have worked better if instead of him actually seeing it get deleted, it just says no.
Yeah, if he just opened it up.
I think what they were trying to do there was express how fleeting this all was, and I think that it was expressed better with writing.
It was that exact same feeling, just it wasn't done as well.
It didn't feel right just having data get deleted.
Yeah.
Well, the fleeting moment is like when he's like trying to remember her name and just can't. And I think that moment sticks out to me a lot.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah,
very heartbreaking.
Because like it's crazy to me because like our brains do that.
Yeah.
I have repeated things to myself that I swear I'll remember so many times.
Yes.
And then 2 minutes later, like it's gone. And some quotes I love from this movie. I'm making sure I got this right. Yeah, so Okudera said this one line to him, where she was like, I do hope at some point that you find happiness too. And like I think she had the ring at that point.
Yeah.
And like I just that stuck out to me because it was like, damn, like because he did learn, going back to what like at the beginning of the movie, when we were introduced to the later versions of them that are saying this stuff that we have no context for yet. Mm-hmm. They say like, I feel like I'm always searching for something, like or someone, and even though like it didn't work out with those two, like it's interesting to me how he's now not trying to waste his time. He wants to make his life mean something, and without Mitsuha, he would not have had that. So.
Also, that I'm just gonna move that cat.
Who's that cat?
I gotta say, and every time I watch this movie, I'm still like dumbfounded. That epilogue feels like it's like 20 minutes long, and in any other movie, I'll be like, "Come on, let's like wrap this up." But I feel like this is like more earned, where it's like you are like, "Come on, just fucking meet each other."
Oh yeah.
And just goes on. It's amazing.
I have another quote that I think is huge, and I think that of all the quotes in the movie, and I know this is a dub, so I don't know what I missed out in the sub. This quote I absolutely adored. Treasure the memories because dreams will fade away. Like I was straight up asking myself, should I start keeping a journal now?
Was that the grandma who said that?
Yeah, it was. And I know that in context she was talking about the union of the two of them, but on like a big scale, this movie really made me realize we don't remember shit.
Yeah.
We remember bullet points of things. We remember like images of things. We remember brief little snippets. Other than like what we have as like photos and videos, me personally, I feel like videos and photos limit your memory of something. I feel like it becomes your only reference for something until you start talking about it.
It takes over the memory.
Yeah.
It can take over the memory.
Yeah, and so like, it's one of those things where I feel like we don't document enough of, like, we don't need every neuron of our brain to be codified somewhere. But that's just unfortunately part of being human. Like, we don't...
Just the fleetingness.
And life... I'm going to quote Yu Yu Hakusho for a minute. Because this I think plays into that perfectly. Have either of you ever watched that anime before?
No. I watched the first episode.
So, not going to get into it, but the ending theme has a line that speaks so much to me that I have a note of it on my desk now. And it is in this movie. I think it just is the main point of what this is saying. The line is, "Life's a fleeting dream. Don't let it go. You gotta make the most of it, you know." And I'm just like, yep, we don't fucking remember shit. This might as well be a dream anyway. So, like, you know, treasure every second of it. And they, you know, they really didn't remember anything until they met back up.
So this leads me to my kind of question at the end of this, which is, what do you think happens afterwards in terms of, like, their relationship and their memories about how they know each other and all that? Because we kind of end with, they say, "Do I know you from somewhere?" "Yeah, I think so." They're crying and they're like, "Tell me your name." What happens after that? Do they remember? Do they begin to remember?
It's a good question.
I don't want to be that asshole who's like, "You're not supposed to know." But, like...
Well, I'm just curious.
It's like a fun little thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I take it as maybe it's more of... I don't think they retain everything that they did, but I think that when they speak to each other, it might be one of those things where they just, like, for some reason, they just, like, connect on, like, their own stories, and they just, like, recall, like, wow, like, yeah, for some reason that, like, speaks to me or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's something along those lines, as opposed to, like, yeah, remember when I, like,
rather
touched
than
your penis?
Right, rather than it all flooding back.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that, too.
Yeah, I'd like to think that, like, even if they didn't end up, like, together, they still were just grateful that after all that time, they finally met each other.
I would like to imagine that they
I
ended up
I
together.
do too.
In a
I do
romance movie, I like to think
No,
that.
and that's one of those things where it's like, I'm okay if it goes either way because I didn't see what happened, but if I did see what happened, what I would have wanted was, yes, they end up together, but that's kind of it, like, happily ever after. I don't need to see what's next.
Right, no, I think it ended at the perfect spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, like, it kind of, like, tricked the audience a little bit in the epilogue, being like, oh, did he get with Okio? So I know she has a running wing.
Yeah, and I think it was very sweet. Like, that was the sweetest shit ever. Like, it was, and, you know, the movie did it plenty of times beforehand, but, like, it baited at its title so much.
Yeah.
But then, at the end, you're like, I get it.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
And I think that title has everything to do.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why it's called Your Name, that's why, like, it's about the fleetingness of all of that.
Their names. I think
They
that was
forgot
the
it.
perfect ending line.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Saying the name of the title of the movie, yeah.
It's so good.
No.
I feel like, the title of the movie could have come secondary to that line.
Is that why there's a period at the end of the actual title?
Ooh, that's a good... I don't know why there is.
Yeah, I didn't...
Because it's asked as a question. And so, like...
But it's a period, it's not a
Your
question.
name.
But it's a period in the title.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know.
So,
No, maybe it's because it's, like, very, like, note-esque, you know?
Yeah,
because they're
like in
taking
their
to
notes,
each
in the
other.
journal. There's also so many times where they say, like, I can't forget your name. I don't want to forget your name.
Yeah. So, I mean, I you could view it as, like, that's the period on the end of the movie itself.
Yeah.
And that's just the, like, beginning and end, I guess, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get hella film student on that.
Right.
Yeah,
But
Right.
I think there's just too much to appreciate anyway.
Yeah, and, I mean, we're not going to get to all of it. And I don't want to waste everybody's time.
Oh, you're not wasting anyone's time. I just want to make sure that you got through everything you wanted to.
No, and, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to talk about outside of the movie, if that's okay with you
Yeah,
guys.
that's fine.
I know I don't want any, you're not stressed on time, are you, Max?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. Basically, you guys keep on mentioning it, but, like, the live action adaptation of Your Name.
I can't wait to not see it.
So, do you guys know about this? at
Isn't
all?
J.J. Abrams directing
Wait,
it?
this is real?
So, when the movie got...
J.J. Abrams?
Well,
directing it?
no,
That makes sense only because there are so many lens flares in this movie.
So in like 2017 or whatever, like late 2017. So, like, the movie has been, like, out in America for, like, a couple months at this point. It's announced that J.J. Abrams was announcing plans for a live action remake where he would, like, be, like, producing it with, like, Paramount, Bad Robot, and I guess, like, Toho would also be, like, producing it as well.
Interesting.
But throughout the whole thing, it seems like they've been going through a bunch of writers and a bunch of directors, and, like, it doesn't seem like it's, like, getting footing. From last time I've like been looking at this and like from like the updates and stuff.
It's such a daunting thing.
But I want you guys to guess, what do you think, what is the premise of, and this might be outdated by the time this is out, but like, what do you, the only piece of information about this, what do you think was the premise of a live action Your Name like adaptation?
Is it a different premise from the animated?
Well, Japanese high schooler in Tokyo, what's that equivalent of?
I see.
And like, and a girl living like in rural Japan. Like, what do you think that
be like New York City, like someone who lives probably in Times Square, and I don't know, someone in
Trump territory.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to say that too, or is there something else that you want to?
I just don't see the point.
Maybe L.A. I could see it being L.A.
Okay, yeah. So this might have changed because they've made like a different they have so many different writers or whatever. But from the little information that I was able to find, the plot is about a young Native American woman living in the rural area and a young man from Chicago.
No way.
Yeah. I don't know if Native Americans have a red string of fate. That's very like Asian-esque.
But there are braiding is very important to Native American culture.
I don't know if they have that equivalent your like soulmate attached through like a thread. Like I don't know if they have that.
I think there might be. I think that's actually kind of clever.
It's a good substitute, but I don't.
But I feel like that's an approximation. I feel like that's I just don't see the point. The story's,
I don't either.
The story's been told. No, right. That is it. The thing is, that feels like.
Come on, guys.
Like,
you know this.
We know.
Oh, right, money. Let's you know that thing. Okay, that thing that you don't give to animators.
Something we gotta live by. Yeah.
Let me throw that out of the window for a bit because I know that is the driving force. I don't fucking care. I'm gonna go full art student here. The story's been told. Like, I don't see the point. I don't think... I think that you can maybe take Japan out of this story and it can still retain some... Actually, no, I don't think you can. Because I don't think it's fair.
I think that's the least of the thing that...
Like, it's just... There's a vision here. I think it achieved everything it set out to do. The point of... I don't know what any point of a remake would be other than just to water it down and make people want to watch the original a little more.
Yeah.
So the beauty of the movie is its art style. And like putting and the beauty of it is because it's so realistic, but it's not real. Right. And like you're kind of taking that away
You're in a different world.
Not to say there was not like good like... Excuse me. There's not good like cinematography or whatever that like you can like enhance the experience, but like it is weird that you're literally making it from a movie to another. It's like The Lion King or like something like that. Where it's like,
that was ridiculous. I mean,
but another time, perhaps.
There's a story that was told here. Regardless of who wrote it, this is not J.J. Abrams' story to tell. It got told. I don't understand any reason why he was even picked, other than the fact that there's an asteroid.
Yeah, like it's the spacey lens flariness.
And I don't think he was picked. I think he just like wants to do it.
Oh, so he wants to take on the mantle of this project. But it would have to be such a unique stylized. Like they would really have to do something.
It would have to do its own thing. It would have to
be its own thing. Yeah.
And I don't think that that transplanting another culture to substitute the bits of culture of Japan, like that's not equivalency. That's not fair. That's appropriating things. I don't think it's like one-to-one at all. It shouldn't be. And I think it's coming from a very misguided place in concept. And hopefully that's not the premise anymore, regardless of if it is or not. I don't see the point. I don't see
if they're not doing it in Japan, I can understand why that would work. I don't think that's a terrible... I wouldn't say one-to-one, but I don't think it's a terrible substitution if they're reimagining the story.
Yeah, but it feels so Hollywood to just like... It feels
remaking something?
Yeah.
I've also... Okay, this is just... I don't want to go on a tangent about remakes, but I just don't even know why that word's even used half the time when it comes to foreign films and their American counterparts, because usually the adaptation gets so skewed for such weird reasons into just being this completely different film that whatever this ends up being... Like, I don't know what it's going to do other than make people want to watch the original more.
Yeah.
Last Airbender. Like, I don't know what it can even do.
Okay, but that's a special case where that was just...
It is, but it'll be the same exact result.
It's going to be better than the last two.
Oh, it will be. I'm sure.
It will absolutely be better than the last two.
I just think that this film is way too recent of a decision to even be made right now. That's not stopping anyone from
it
making
came out
any
in
of these.
2016, but...
I'd still argue it's too recent.
They're literally making a
Harry Potter
remake right now.
They're remaking Harry Potter
Moana
way
came
too
out,
early.
2016 also, right?
And I do not want to go on this kind of tangent. It is exhausting. But I think it's a lost cause.
So
I think it's pointless.
I think the best way to adapt this is you just make a mini series and you just and you kind of flesh out the side characters a bit more.
There you go.
And I think that's like the best like compromise.
Again, it would still have to be so stylized. It would have to be so visually interesting.
If you cut it down, like the story, you can cut down like 6 episodes, 8 at most. Like I think. You get the right director, you get a decent amount of fun.
You get Tom Holland and Zendaya.
And like you just fucking like
they're high schoolers.
It's not stopping Zendaya or Tom Holland.
Also, I know we're like past this one, but like, I do want to say that like even though the side characters like get like shafted a bit, like I do appreciate just a more focused story over some like B plot or whatever that is just like annoying or whatever that takes away from like the actual plot. So I do appreciate like the movie for doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean I guess that's basically it. I mean, any final thoughts? I guess
I gave it a 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Nice. Yeah, I give it probably like a 98 out of 100.
I can totally see why. I can totally see why this made IMDb's top 100. I've just been so exhausted by the nothingness of so much trash that's been coming out of just like premium media. Like, and this movie just reminded me that like again, it's the same feeling I got from watching Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was like there are incredible stories to be told. There are incredible people who can tell those stories. And they just need to be able to put them out, and they need to exist in a world where we just have all of this schlock, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm right there with that point where it's like, yeah,
it's refreshing.
When I first saw this movie, I like delved deep into like actual movies that like, or like just like, you know, unknown or like something that like I just like haven't really experienced. Like I went to see like the Ghibli movies, you know, Miyazaki stuff. I went to see like all these other like random ass things that Satoshi Kon or like not just like anime directors, but like just like indie shit and like just like stuff that isn't like mainstream. And like I like it reinvigorated my like love for movies and like it's great.
Whenever I watch like a good Japanese like anime film, like it's funny because I get this cyclical feeling of like I want to watch a Kurosawa film. I want to watch like the original Godzilla. I want to like because that is a legitimate film. Like and I just this made me appreciate that kind of stuff. And American filmmaking, unless you're in the indie space, is just such a tired, exhausting cycle of nothing that I want to branch out to more foreign films. And I think that with animation, Japan has such a great opportunity to... There's a lot you could pick from there, but this is one of those all-time greats.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, I'm happy you like it so much when like you're willing to like watch the sub.
I want to watch it again, like tomorrow. Like,
oh shit, okay.
Dubbed, like it was just talking about it is making me realize just how genius it was, and I knew it was genius when I watched it. But now that I've had the time to platform that, it's just like whoa.
Yeah, and there's just so many details we couldn't even go through that, like in this film.
I think Lily was jealous of our watch altogether. And I will watch it again with her whenever she wants. Yeah. It's that good.
Also, like your brother mentioned this, like the 3D effect when he first woke up in Mitsuo's body.
The camera pans around her room.
Oh my god, it was like there's so many shots.
Yeah,
my favorite shot in the whole movie. I wanted someone to pause it. I'm gonna screensaver this immediately. Right before the grandmother asks, "You're dreaming, aren't you?" When they're like looking at the field, I think it was the crater, and the field
it was outside the crater.
Yeah, right before it was about to hit again, before it was nighttime. I was like, This is one of the most beautiful shots I have ever seen.
Yeah, and watching her watch the crater fall the comet fall for the first time, also just so visually interesting. The camera pans all the way around her, then you look up and you watch the crater fall, and there's the music and the bell ringing noise, and it's just.
And I don't want to comment on his other movies, but I do think that, like, obviously I think his other movies have more funding to them. They have, like, more, like, money going into them and, like, stuff like that. But, like, it is a case where I think the actual storyboarding of this is better. It is probably his best work, absolutely.
I believe it.
But, I don't know. Is there anything you guys want to plug in?
Plugs?
Plugs?
Oh, yeah, last time we did plugs at the top.
No, don't mention it. Don't mention that.
Sure. Check out niceworkpalshop.etsy.com.
Please check out Jubilife Terminal Podcast for more of my lovely voice.
Yeah, and if there's something that you guys want us to watch, whether it's like movie, TV, like maybe a game, depending on like the length or whatever, I don't know. But like, I mean, like we'll probably have like other guests. We'll have like these two guys come on every now and then.
These
and,
two
like,
guys.
These two jackasses.
These characters
that spend their Tuesday nights recording in like a really hot room. And it's not that hot.
It's not that hot.
Yo, I'm sorry. I tried.
No. We told you to turn the fan off. It's fine. Don't worry. Yeah. That's on me. That's not a sly at all. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
And YouTube, like if you guys want to watch any or like any discussion at all about anything, just let me know.
May I suggest
Always
Pink Flamingos next?
Ooh.
I'm not being serious.
I haven't seen it, so I'm very.
I haven't either. I'm totally joking right now, though.
I don't know what that. Pink Flamingo is coming up next. No.
Maybe we'll do all of RuPaul's Drag Race since you didn't know who RuPaul was.
I gotta look this guy.
I can't do it.
You said Ron Paul?
Yeah, all of Ron Paul's Drag Race.
RuPaul?
RuPaul. RuPaul.
Yay.
Anyways, that's about it. See ya.
Oh, no, I don't know this guy.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
You've lost so many subscribers.
That's fine. The 5 still live on, baby. The 5 subscribers still live.
Aim high.
See you guys.